We should have done this at the beginning of the podcast, but was Nico Williams particularly good last night? Yeah, he was. He was excellent. He was brilliant. Yeah.
And especially for the second half when he was right in front, I kept noticing him and just thinking, I don't really know much about football, but I think he's having a great game.
We've got Kat New all the way out in Lisbon, and we've got Jackson from San Diego. We've got Bobby Franco, who said, I'm in Dallas, and it's great to hear about fans with similar stories in North America. That's fantastic, Bobby, because we've got Lewis Summerfield, who just reached out, saying he's a big fan of the podcast, and he's just relocated to Dallas with work and wondered if you knew of any fans there. So, Lewis, there's Bruce from Texas. I think he's down in Dallas as well, or near there. And there's Bobby Franco as well, who's just reached out to us. So we'll put you two together, hopefully. FS Dowie, who says, my Seattle boy wants to attend a game at the City Ground when we visit the UK in the spring. Any recommendations on getting tickets? So anyone out there, if you can help out FS Dowie and his boy out in Seattle, they'd love to get to a game sometime in spring, which is coming up. And we have Barry Bride in Townsville, Australia, saying keep up the good work, fair play to you, Barry. We also have Matt's sister, who interacts from time to time with the podcast, Matt.
My sister?
Your sister has been interacting through social media. I've just realised how orange I look, by the way. It's the light above me, nothing else. Honestly, Matt, your sister, Andrea, has been... Andrea? I say Andrea, you say Andrea, I don't know. But Andrea...
Andy. She's known as Andy, yeah.
Big shout
out to Andy. I honestly didn't even know she listened. So hi, Andy. That's great. Sorry that we haven't spoke for a while. We'll catch up soon.
And I'll just give you a rundown of what's coming on today. We've got we're going to talk a little bit about Newcastle away and Arsenal.
Hang on, what did she say?
Oh, we'll get to her. I'll talk. Do you want me to tell you on air what Andrea said? She's been interacting with some of the polls, some of the posts, some of the stuff about Forest. She's been keeping a keen eye on Nottingham Forest.
Oh, yeah. No, she messages me sometimes. She and I went with her when I was taken the first times with my dad and his friend John and her. The four of us were together. And Andy was a bit of a Forest fan, proper Mark Crossley days. And now she's getting back involved. She's got a lovely daughter, my niece, who is I think maybe a Norwich fan, but I know my sister's trying to get her to be a Forest fan. But they live out in Norwich. And, my brother-in-law and my nieces. I mean, I digress. So let's carry on.
Yeah, you do digress. Move a little bit closer to the camera so we can get a little bit more volume on the mic there for you, right? I know you have a big picture.
I prefer this shot.
There's the point. About there, you don't need to be too far close. You don't need to be too close. But I do see in the background you have I love my job. So you've strategically set up the camera.
I didn't. That's honestly an accident.
Oh, yeah, was it? Okay.
You think I've moved my desktop for this podcast?
I don't know what you would do, right?
I haven't. I just when I turned it on and looked on it and we saw that, I was like, that's hilarious. That'll do for the pod.
Okay, well, what I'll do for the pod on this episode is we're going to talk about Arsenal, the 0-0 draw with Arsenal last night. We're going to talk about the Newcastle away game a little bit, not much, but mainly the Arsenal game recently. We're going to talk about the FA Cup versus Champions League poll and how that came out in the iron, in the woodwork, and see who won that particular battle from the last episode. We'll go over the pathway and see where the three of us are, Will, myself, yourself, and we will talk about the FA Cup this weekend against Ipswich, and we'll do a little bit on Forest Fantasy Fives at the end. But before we do all that, long live the King, King Matt, and I am a mere peasant in the eyes of the people. You, Matt, are a good luck charm. You haven't been to, I think you've been to one home loss in 7 years, and you were a season ticket holder for a good portion of that. So can you explain your luck when it comes to going to the City Ground and not watching any losses?
I don't think that's too accurate. There's got to be more losses that I've seen. That's mad. In 7 years.
No, we've done it. In fact, you've been to very rarely away losses as well, but you've been to a couple where you sat the West Ham home end.
Well, let's not do this now because that could get very bitty. Let's just talk about. We've just had Arsenal, mate, and we've got Ipswich on Monday. Surely that's more. It's richer content than. I mean, how many losses have I been to? I must have seen Forest lose. I can remember the feeling. I was at Blackpool at home.
Matt, we've counted them up, and you have been to one home loss, right? I'm pretty sure one home loss in 7 years. Maybe there's 2 in there, and then very few away losses as well. There's several good luck charms at the moment. Olivia, who came over from Chicago and saw that 7-0 smashing of Brighton, you were at that game as well.
I've seen us lose to Bournemouth, mate. I've been at a couple of Bournemouth games where we've lost.
Name them.
I was at the one where Bolly got sent off unfairly.
Oh, were you at that one as well? I didn't know that.
Game.
Yeah, I didn't know you were at that. Okay, so that's 2. Right, but I know for a fact, because we've been through it, your record of about 40 to 50 games. Within that, there's only 2 or 3. I just know for a fact. We'll do it another time. Anyway, you're right. We need to talk about Arsenal. We've just drawn with them. We've taken a valuable point away there, or at home, with them last night. You were at the game, right?
Yeah.
How was that experience?
It was really great. And I was thinking about some things that came to mind that aren't quite football related. So we'll stick with the football first, but there are a couple of talking points. I kind of talked about one of them before about atmosphere at the City Ground, but and the truth of it. But the game was really enjoyable for a 0-0. And I wouldn't normally enjoy a 0-0, especially when it's a 0-0 that people enjoy. And I go, yeah, it was still 0-0. But watching Murillo defend the way he did, and the crowd cheered a little bit like Forest had scored. It was a really thrilling thing to be a part of. Seeing
you were behind that goal, weren't you?
Martin Odegaard taking his corners. It was I just had a great night. I was nearly very late. I got a parking ticket for my.
Whoa! Here we go.
Yeah.
Here
another
Ladies and gentlemen. There's a few things in life: death, taxes, and Matt getting parking tickets. Just like he got 21 parking tickets in the space of 5 weeks several years ago, and I'll keep reminding him about the 3 parking tickets he got in one day when I told him not to park somewhere. And once again, Matt has got a parking ticket. What a surprise!
Well, I got that the traffic getting into Nottingham from. I don't know if anyone from a side I don't normally go in from, West Bridgeford side and Bingham and all that. I was going in from that way, and it was gridlocked. It took me ages. So I was like, I'm not missing kickoff, and I didn't know what the queues are going to be like. And I had to just park the car somewhere. So I just dumped it on the side of the road. And I'm thinking, I'm going to get a ticket for this. Fingers crossed. And I did. But I got in time. In time for kickoff, and it was a great atmosphere. I was in a very noisy part of the ground. It was like old school noisy, Lower Bridgeford, up in where that bend is. Right towards the back where there's a bend. I don't know if people saw on the telly all the flags and the big waving flags at the beginning. I saw it on the Match of the Day highlights. I was up just behind them. And
missed your moment on telly, did you?
I found my moment on telly. I am actually featured. I'm not featured on my own. I can see my head next to the 2 guys I was next to in the background.
So you did. There's some extra work for you.
Well, when I saw the flags, I thought, hang on, if I can find that. I know that yellow flag. I was behind it. Point being, the atmosphere was good to some extent, and then interesting to another extent. The game was just, I just thought that Forest did a really solid job of defending a really slick side, and they really put their bodies on the line again. I was watching Murillo going, God, if we don't get Champions League football, he is going to go. He is probably doing really well, but he's probably thinking, why do I have to defend this hard? Why am I not playing for a team that's like Arsenal? Do you know what I mean? Why?
Well, yeah.
And I wonder.
I suppose there's a couple of questions you kind of posed there. The first one is the atmosphere. I saw a couple of people online talk about it being a little flat. I think
it wasn't a little flat. It was more like it actually is normally, because Mull of Kintyre is beautiful and we can't do without it. But why do we repeat it at half time, second half? It feels so contrived, and every time it finishes, we don't launch into.
You know what? From let me
stars, players, and managers.
Let me cut you off.
Yeah,
because you've talked for a little bit. Sorry, I'm trying to give you more space to talk, but every now and again I need to just dig in there. So, look, what I'll say is, I think yesterday's game, I had a couple of people message me who were at the game, and some of them said at moments it was electric, and then at other moments it just felt a bit sort of cagey. And I think personally, you can't really gauge the atmosphere from yesterday's game. A 0-0 draw where Arsenal dominate most of the possession. They're trying to carve us open. They had about 10 or 11 corners. We're defending for our lives most of the game. We have a couple of big chances or semi-big chances. Let me finish, right? Yeah. But I'm saying that yesterday's game, it was a bit cagey and it was a bit like that. I think for the most part, the times I've been to the City Ground this year, the crowd have been pretty damn amazing, to be honest. But there's been moments, obviously, where there's lulls, and I think it's because the expectation has risen, and that kind of it's
The
kind of a
expectation
metaphor
of
for the
what?
season of what we believe we need to do to get
Right.
into
So
Europe. And I think
this is where I still
sorry.
need to pin you back, because it's not. That's the problem. Is we shouldn't be talking about the atmosphere ever, and that's part of the problem. And I don't think Forest are probably the only club that do this. It's part of this. It's part of the sort of past 5 or so years of this explosion, maybe more than 5 years, I don't know, of YouTubing, of this extra microscope, all this excessive amount of content done by like professional broadcasters as well. I don't really mean, I mean, people, I love that people do what they want, but why we're talking about atmosphere and Forest's atmosphere. Liverpool get it as well. Man United will get it as well. I'm sure rickety teams with amazing atmospheres get it as well. The minute you talk about it like it's a special big thing, the expectation on the atmosphere, that's why I picked you up on the word expectation. I was like, do you mean on the game and the results, or do you mean this expectation that we've decided to give ourselves on our own atmosphere? Means when it's not high octane, zinging, special, rousing amazingness all the time, people start trying to fake it or say it is, or they sing the same songs, and there's no heart to it. It was better. You remember when we used to play Arsenal when we had Lewis Grabban? That time we beat Wenger, and I think Brereton ended Mertesacker's career. That was atmosphere.
Those 2 specific times. Yeah, no, of course.
That was atmosphere. And it wasn't with anyone going, there's going to be an atmosphere, or did you see?
I think I see what you're saying.
It comes from an organic and heartfelt instinct, not this is what we'll do tonight to be
sure. Look, okay. Look, no. Yeah. Okay. Matt, I got you. You've made your point.
We've become that. That's my point.
I don't think we fully become that, but I think that there's parts.
Because you're always on the fence. True. We have become that.
No, because
we're not alone.
I'm just trying to get you to stop talking. I'm just trying to get you to stop talking.
Don't sit on the fence.
I'm not sitting on the fence. I'm about to tell you. First of all, the word expectation I was using for results, so I wasn't using in that context, but I let you run with that context anyway because you wanted to talk about that, and that's fine. There's no problem with that, all right? But the times I've been to home and away games this season, right, and I've been to a few, okay, there's levels of the atmosphere dipping and going high and peaking, and yes, I understand.
Of course it's
let me finish my sentence. I let you finish.
Yeah.
But the point you're making is sometimes based on all the sudden there's the spotlight and, like you said, all the media and stuff surrounding it and talking about it, it then sometimes becomes manufactured because we have an expectation for the atmosphere to be what everyone spoke about, particularly in the first season. Forest came up when, you know, Arsenal and Man United and Chelsea would come and go, wow, they're amazing. Oh my gosh, I've never heard this before. And then all of a sudden there's a different level of expectation on and off the pitch and with the atmosphere. So I understand that to a degree. I do want to get off the topic though, because it's just like I'm actually kind of bored of it. I think I'm not.
You don't quite understand it, and I'm raising it, and you'll go, "Oh,
okay." I'm sorry. Well, you understand it perfectly. In which case,
I don't understand it. This is part of your nature.
I just don't want to spend 5 minutes. I just don't want to spend 5 minutes talking about what could have been a 2-minute conversation. All right. So
yeah.
Let's.
Well, I'm just trying to say that part of it's a cultural issue, and it's I just found it interesting to go, oh gosh, it's really and part of a big. You know what? Talking about it is a bit vacuous, but people might say, well, how do you change it? What would change? How does one say, well, stop singing Mull of Kintyre twice? Because that's...
Yeah, but I disagree. I disagree with that. I think we should sing at halftime. I don't have a problem. I don't have a problem.
Why? Because it's literally quieter. It's repetitive.
Because it makes sense. It's at the beginning of before kickoff, and then it's at the halftime before kickoff. So it's like a routine. It's not like we don't sing it at the end of the game. It's just it happens to be a routine thing before each kickoff.
So why wouldn't you just get something, build on it?
It's a pre-kickoff thing, and there's 2 kickoffs in the game. We don't do it pre if someone scores a goal, we kick off, but it's a pre-kickoff thing. That's what it's
undermined by the fact it's blasted out at the beginning of the game. So unless you're going to do it even louder, and which is unrealistic, because half the fans are still queuing up or going to the toilet or whatever, and they've already gone through that emotional thing. Like, why would you
Do you have anything not to motivate today?
What
Is there
is
anything
it
positive
about doing
for
it
the
quieter, Chris, that's a good idea by doing it at half time, as you've just made that point?
The answer is it's not always. I mean, it's always going to be louder at the beginning of a game purely because of expectation. When a game's about to start, you've had the walk across the bridge, you've been to the pubs or the cafes or wherever you've been before. You've come in.
Yeah.
It's always going to be a bit louder at the beginning. So therefore, you can't control the fact that everyone's got that little bit more excitement at the beginning of a game as opposed to half time. If it's slightly quieter,
why would you do it less powerfully?
Why not? It's still powerful. If it's less powerful or not, it's still powerful, right? I'll tell you what. We'll solve this problem.
Why not do something that was more powerful?
I just want you to stop talking about this. I want to go to the comments and say, listen, should we have Mulligan Tire at halftime? Yes or no? See who says yes, see who says no. We'll let the people decide, not
Please think about it before you answer. Listen to the point.
Sorry, listeners. Please think about it before you answer.
People go, people won't have it.
No. Patronize them then. Patronize them then, if that's what you want to do.
Patronizing them.
You do. Please think about it before you answer.
Yeah, okay, I'm patronizing them. But I know people would say, of course we should. Like, really?
No one's going to say, of course we should. They'll have a little bit of a think about it after you spent 7 minutes talking about
it. Sorry, everyone.
No,
at least something different, maybe. I don't know.
Well, we've talked about it. Now, other than that, do you have anything positive to say about last night? Is there anything positive about last night, or do you want me to give some positives?
Well, where there was good organic atmosphere was when they were berating the Arsenal fans, singing second again. Ole, second again. Very funny. Positive last night, I've already said it. The defending was amazing to watch. And I'm not always someone who enjoys a 0-0 solid defensive performance. And I was yesterday. It was really cool. It was great to watch the sort of grit of it, and it was brutal. We weren't coming up with anything. Chris Wood's touches weren't good enough for him to convert what would have been worldies if he had done, and then had followed through and scored from a couple of balls from Miss Morgan Gibbs White. But other than those two moments, it was all backs to the wall. And Nico Williams had a great game. This is amazing defending at the end of the game. I love watching people like Anderson. There was a moment where Alanga ran out to the left wing. It must have been in the second half, because I think we were defending. I was in a Lower Bridgeford, as I said. It was second half, and he went out to try and jump on the break, and then it went out for a throw in, and he dived, but it got a roar as if he got fouled, and the ref didn't give him a foul, but he was on the floor rolling around, and I just watched Anderson lean over to Alanga screaming, and he was going, get up, and Alanga just got up, and I was like, God, that is amazing.
It was it's a real passionate, gritty, grimy performance yesterday, which was kind of, and just to be clear, bear in mind, I went to the Newcastle game. My mate Davis, shout out to him. He was in the home end. He's a Newcastle fan, and I was in the away end. And I'll have to say, the difference between the game you went to compared to the one I went to, where we're 4-1 down at halftime, and I'm thinking, how do we even get back into this? And we did show fight second half, obviously, to bring it back to 4-3. But I suppose I wouldn't have gone all the way to Newcastle for a 0-0 draw. But in your case, I get why a 0-0 draw is really cool, because you come off the back of conceding 4 goals at Newcastle, getting sliced open against Fulham the week before. And now you have this game where it's like, no. We're going to back to the wallet. We're going to go back to basics. We're going to put ourselves in the back 4, but we're going to keep our shape. And from the midfield right to the back to even Chris Wood, defensively, I thought we were brilliant. And I thought Sells was really good as well. He made a really good save from Marino. You would have been right behind this, actually, where it was a corner, and Arsenal were just pumping the corners in at this stage. And they were just going at us. Rice from one side, Odegaard from the other side. And Rice looped this wonderful corner over the top. And Marino got in back post, and Sells had this great point blank save. And I just felt like there was a few moments where Sells, once again, his heroics, that's 11 clean sheets for him now. It's the most in the Premier League of any keeper. I thought he was magnificent. So look, a really good performance after a Newcastle sort of first half implosion and then fight in the second half. And they must have carried that fight from the second half of that game into this game against Arsenal last night. So point taken, point proven, parking ticket problems for Matt. Once again, as always.
One other thing, what do you think the most if you were to say one attribute of a person to depict Mikel Arteta, what would it be? And let's not say his voice, because his voice is very unique, and the way he speaks is clearly just him. I don't know anyone else like him, but there's something physical about him that I think he's got a unique quality. It might not be a quality, a unique character trait.
Why don't you just tell me? Because I can't guess.
You notice the way he claps? I've always noticed it.
No.
The way he claps and the way he sort of high fives people is it's like his hands are like injected with an anti-bend fluid, and he like it's all like that. And then when he high fives people, he throws the fist of it. Just watch the way Mikel Arteta.
He's got this fierce kind of hand clap.
Yeah, but his fingers are straight and they're bouncing off each other, and he hits the what do you call that? The butts of your hand, the sort of bottom part, the thick part of your thumbs and palms. And like, and the hat and the fingers they're not floppy at all. I've just always noticed it, and I just it's
very
really
very specific character trait you've picked up.
Sort of like when he's doing a high five with someone, he holds it out and waits, and his fingers are rigid, and then he throws. Pump. Just what you'll see what I mean next time you see it. You won't be able to not see it now.
Okay, well, I will. I won't look out for it, but I'm sure some of our listeners will. Let's go to the FA Cup. The FA Cup versus Champions League poll. Now, look, it's really annoying this, because I posted this after we'd lost to Fulham pre-Newcastle, and we got hardly any sort of. Well, we got a few people pitching in. You know, it was about 50 and one, and maybe 100 the other.
So many.
No, but it's not. No, but it's not. What I'm saying is, it's not that many compared to what we would have had the weeks before when we just beaten Brighton. Because that's what happens when you win. You get more viewers and listeners and people interacting. It's just the nature of the beast. Anyway, Matt said last week we did a thing. We posed a question: would you rather get FA Cup and that gets you Europa League and 9th, or would you rather have a Champions League place? I said I'd rather have the Champions League place. Matt said he'd rather win the FA Cup and get Europa and finish 9th or below. The first poll on X or Twitter or whatever, the results say 62% in favor of Matt, FA Cup, Europa, 9th. Don't give me that smug look of yours. And 38% Champions League place. We did the poll again on an Instagram story. 67% in favor of Matt, FA Cup gets Europa on 9th, and 33% in favor of just the Champions League place, which is top 4.
Who are those 33%? I mean,
I'll actually. It's funny that you asked that, because I'll actually go through a couple of these. A few of my friends who are Man United fans, they're not even Forest fans, voted against me on purpose. Edwin, Andrew, Alex, your sister Andrea voted as well in favor of your view, which is disappointing. It's disappointing for me. But yeah, it's disappointing. I got loads of private messages saying people agree with me, but they wouldn't necessarily say it. And I wonder, are they doing that thing in the voting booth where they tick their other thing? And I don't know. We'll have to see. But that was the story with the poll. So congratulations.
They might, because again, like the point I was making at the beginning about Molovkin Tyre and think before you answer. I imagine it's the same with those people that voted for Chris. I just implore you, or have said to Chris privately, I agree with what you're saying. I just ask you to listen back to what I'm saying and allow it to let your mind be changed.
Hold on a second. You've won both polls, and now you're getting greedy, and you want to go back and take more votes from me.
I want to 8-ball you.
You're disgusting.
I want to 8-ball you.
You're disgusting.
I'm going to pot the black before you even potted one of your colours.
So, okay, well, we'll play each other in pool, and we'll see how that turns out 10 times out of 10. And we'll
loser has to run around the table with his trousers down.
What are you on about? I don't even know. Okay, anyway. Sorry, I have to move on from that. We'll just call the podcast "Loser has to run around the table with his trousers down."
Just running around the table.
Let's get on to the pathway, right? So we did the pathway episode a few weeks ago where we predict all the scores and results and see how many points we can get for the pathway to Europe to get a European place. We started it. When did we start the pathway? We started it back in just before the Brighton game, so 4 games ago. So we'll see where we sort of land with that now. Let me look it up here on the thing. Give me 1 second, everyone. Sorry. Right. So we've got Brighton, Fulham, Newcastle, Arsenal. Those are the first 4 games of the prediction list. There was, I think, about 15 games left at the time. For Brighton, Will predicted a win, 3 points. Matt predicted a loss, and I predicted a draw, so 1 point. Will came out with 3 points on that. For Fulham, Will predicted a win. We didn't win that, obviously. Matt predicted a draw. Chris predicted a draw. Karina, my wife, actually predicted a loss in that game, so she got that right. Newcastle, Will predicted a loss. Matt predicted a loss. I predicted a draw. And Karina predicted a win. We didn't get the win. We lost. And then for Arsenal, Will predicted a loss. Matt predicted a win. Chris predicted a win, and Karina predicted a draw. So she's got another one right there. So we are, I think, Matt is -2 points behind. Chris is -2 points behind. I think Karina is -3 points behind, and Will is no, actually, Matt is 0 points. You're level points. Sorry,
I was going to say I've scored higher than you just from hearing you read them out.
Yeah, okay. Don't make it a competition, right? It's just predictions, man.
If it's not a competition, what the hell is it?
Well, it's not a competition. The pathway is just a bunch of predictions. The competition is actually the thing we're in. The dance.
When you're making the predictions, are you aiming to get them wrong or right?
I'm aiming to. Okay. There's two things, right?
Are you aiming to get them wrong or right?
Are you going to listen to me or not?
Go on. Probably not.
Probably not. Right. No. So there's the podcast predictor league, which is Will, me, you, Ryan, Barstow Chief, and Ross Taylor. I think that's the 5 people as part of our team. We were aiming to get them right. That is literally, and I am bottom of the pile there. I've got 0 points for our team, forestallover. But forestallover are doing okay because some of the other guys, including yourself, have done quite well. But I am got 0. Now, hang on. Let me finish. The other thing, which
we're talking TV are loving that you're losing.
Yeah, I know they are, but sure, look, we'll see how it goes in the end. I'm glad that they predicted loads of losses because I didn't. I was optimistic. I'm sorry for being optimistic, everyone. Hey, everyone, I'm sorry for being optimistic that I thought after or just before we played Bournemouth, I'm sorry that I predicted we'd win some games. Sorry, everyone. I'm not sorry. Let's go back to the pathway. The pathway is something that we predicted to try and see where we could grind out some points. So my predictions are slightly different in the pathway than they will be in the podcast predictor league, and as are yours. All right, they're similar, but they're slightly different. So that's all it is. But your level. So currently we have the 4 points needed from those 4 games that you predicted we get. The thing about your pathway, which scares the crap out of all of us, is you've got us to win the last 5 games, which just gets us into the Champions League, and that scares me a little bit. I wish you'd predicted a few more wins early and a few losses later, but look, you did it your way. But that's the pathway stuff anyway. Okay?
It's exciting, mate. It's exciting because you're going to have a good end to the season.
It'll be exciting if you do well and then you can slag me off. That's what you're looking for.
If it's an incredible game, I say we try and get seats in that expensive thing in the corner between the Trent End and what is this? The new hospitality that you put up in.
Who's paying for
that? We'll get
Forest all over.
Talk to accounts in the Forest all over company. See if they can spare a bit of expense for once.
Do you mean my wife? So I asked my wife as an accountant, hey, can you pay for me and Matt to go to the expensive area in the hospitality? Is that what you're thinking? Karina.
Is
there any chance you can pay for me and Matt to go to hospitality? That's what he's looking for. A couple of grand.
I think it's £300 each.
She said I'll speak to Matt about it. Anyway, let's. I don't know how much.
Maybe she and I will
go. Let's move on to the FA Cup weekend, right? So obviously, look, we've come off. We've come off the back of some tough games, even in the FA Cup against Exeter, right? So we seem to be kind of stuck in a moment that we can't get out of, but we have played with a bit of pride and desire, and I just wonder, can we take that into this FA Cup game this weekend?
Can we take it in? I think absolutely, and they definitely will. I think I heard in the post-match, the BBC post-match, they were talking about how he'll likely not make wholesale change because of this. They reckon that Ipswich will play a full-strength squad, and Nuno will be taking it very seriously now to get us into the quarters. I'd like to think that we do. I just think that's a shame for some of the players that have been playing in the Cup. I don't know if it's good for morale and man management that they revert to the Premier League starters for this next game. It kind of might be at the time of season where we need that depth, the depth that we do have, whether it's to the level we would have preferred it to be for where we find ourselves or not. actually we need those players to stand up and be counted. And yes, a tricky one. It's a tricky one to manage that. Imagine if he doesn't pick the likes of Sosa, what's his name? Jota Silva.
Yeah,
Taiwo, I reckon, will get the start. Surely he looked good. He looked. I don't know, Chris. I just think. What was the main question? Was it who will start? Was it
the main question was more about fight and desire coming into this, but I suppose you've.
fine. I mean, okay, yeah, that's an annoying question.
Hang on. I'm going to stop the questioning of the desire and fight.
I mean, I don't know.
All I want is for you to just give me a moment and be normal for 1 second. It's just it's constant, just like a scratching of a cat.
I think you're missing just the conversational rhythm.
The conversational rhythm is, I was about to lead into your part, which is, let's talk about the team a little bit, because that is probably the key conversation that we need to have. Ipswich lost to Man United. Will
there be desire and fight? That's what they're paid to have, so I imagine so.
Great, relax. Right, what I'm saying to you is, the team is probably a pretty important question from both teams, because Ipswich bottled. They were 2-2 with Man United, and Man United were down 10 men. Man United ended up beating them 3-2. They bottled that with their main team. We play Ipswich twice now in the next few weeks. Once the away game, which is really important in the Premier League, and then this weekend that you're going to, FA Cup game. The question is, you mentioned to me that Ipswich won't make wholesale change. I think they probably should focus on the league, if I'm honest with you. I think they should be very, very careful about getting any of their players injured for the league. Forest, I think we should make some changes, because I think we need to reserve some of our players who've played back-to-back games in the space of 3 or 4 days, Newcastle, Arsenal. So I think we should make some changes. I don't think we should do a full 11 pretty much like we did last time against Exeter. That shouldn't happen. But I do think Sangari should start. I do think maybe Yates starts alongside him, even though they're both similar positions. I do think Danilo starts. I do think
Sosa Danilo in the 10, yeah?
Well, I'll tell you what makes it easier is me telling you who I don't want to see start, because I don't want to risk them. Okay. I don't want to risk Murillo. I don't want to risk Morgan Gibbs-White. I wouldn't want to risk Matt Sells, but we have to, because Miguel is injured. Right. I wouldn't want to risk Anderson, but I understand why he'd come in to give us a bit of energy.
I think he steps out. I actually think Anderson will get stood down with Aina.
Yeah, I'd like to reserve our wing backs. Right.
Do you think we should recall James Ward-Prowse for this game?
Are you joking? Ward-Prowse, you're messing. He's joking. Ladies and gentlemen, he's joking. He knows he's gone to West Ham. Just stop making us look like idiots. I do that all well on my own. All right.
He couldn't even say.
Let's just do the starting team, because it's just going to be easier.
No, it's going to be Matt Sells. And then I think Aina gets swapped out. As you say, it'd be good. I reckon you could keep Milenkovic, right? Stick him in.
No, I reckon. Sorry, I'm going to cut you off. I reckon he does the entire back line again. I reckon it's Morato and Bolly in a back four with Moreira and Moreno. Yeah. And I reckon, and then Sells plays in goals. And then I reckon he does the entire back four, but he doesn't do the Toffolo centre back thing. I reckon he does Moreira, Moreno, Bolly, and Morato. And then midfield's the interesting point is like, okay, he's probably going to do a new midfield as well. He might do Sangare and Yates and Danilo. I don't know. That's pretty defensive.
Yeah, I'd like to see Danilo higher up the pitch. I think he's great.
Maybe he does that. Maybe he does that. And then what about I wouldn't like to see Callum Hudson-Odoi start, because I want to save his legs for the Man City game the following week. But
and maybe.
Does this mean we're basically saying we don't want to see wholesale changes? But you know what? We're probably going to see at least 8-9 players change. Maybe. No, I might be wrong.
This whole Sangare Yates thing you brought up. Yates has shown that he can be quite a box-to-box guy now. Keep Sangare in the holding in front of that back four you just said. Stick Yates on doing an Anderson kind of job, and then get Danilo up in the Gibbs-White role. And as you say, you put Sosa and Jota Silva and Taiwo up ahead of that.
I don't mind. Yeah. By the way, just for the record, I don't mind,
because I think that Sosa can score. I think that Sosa can have a good. I think Sosa's a brilliant player. Actually, he just doesn't have.
Are you doing that on purpose? Are you doing that on purpose? What? Because I used to cut you off all the time, and sometimes I still do. But I literally was about to say something, and then you went, because I think. Yeah.
I don't know if I'm doing it on purpose. Sorry, I'm not being very polite, but it's just because neither of us have got time or patience for any of this.
Right. Well, that's a bomb.
You have.
No, I don't have time for this, and I definitely don't have the patience. So you're right. Neither of us have time or patience. I don't have time or patience for you.
Go on. I won't cut you off.
Look. I was just saying I would have liked to seen. I don't mind seeing a couple of strong players amongst the group, just to early on put down our flag, because if we do a full change of 10, 11 players.
The reason I butt in is rather than saying a couple of strong players, can you tell me who? It's like so vacuous and generalized. When I just give us something interesting. Who would you put in? Because we just said no wholesale, then realised it basically is wholesale, and now you're going, I'd like to see a couple of. What does strong players mean? They're all Premier League.
I might not mind starting Anderson in the 8 and Sangari in the 6.
He needs a rest, man.
Or maybe Anderson in the 10 actually, and Danilo in the 8. So Sangari in the 6, dropping deep. Danilo in Anderson's usual role in the 8, and then the 10 I'd put Anderson, and then I'd have Sosa one side because I think he's technically really talented. Give Jota Silva another chance, or maybe if you want to play Elanga, just give a bit of pace early on, see what happens. And
what about Jota Silva in the 10? Jota Silva in the 10.
You just cutting off me, get me off again before we finish.
Mate, it's a conversation.
Well, it is a conversation.
This is why I don't want to go on YouTube, everybody, because Chris is turning.
Ask the question, Matt. Just ask the question. Go on, ask the question.
What about Jota Silva in the 10?
No.
Why do you say no? He's been
because he's not technically gifted enough to play the 10. I'd play Ramon Sosa in the 10, maybe, but then that means you have to put someone out wide, and that someone out wide might be Callum Hudson-Odoi or Elanga. I don't want to risk both those players playing out wide for us. So no, I wouldn't put Jota Silva in the 10. I wouldn't put Sosa in the 10 yet. Maybe one day, but not right now. I'd keep them both out the wing, and I'd play someone like Anderson, strong enough to dictate play, and he doesn't have to do all the running that he normally does as in the 8, so he's not risking an injury, hopefully, right? And I'd
take the set pieces as well, but I just think he needs to rest.
Maybe he does. Okay, then who would you have if you had to pick one strong player to play apart from Sells?
I think Yates. I think that when you
Yates
say
doesn't start. Yates isn't starting at the moment. They are a strong
player.
But then pick a starting player who started last night that you watched.
Why does that? That's so short-termism going on in your head.
Well, the last 2 games, Dominguez has started. So pick someone who started.
And he hasn't. He's had some great moments, and he's had some appalling moments.
What is it you're looking for? I'm not conflicting with you over.
Just because Dominguez has started the last 2 games doesn't put him in.
I know it doesn't. Yates has started
the bench loads this season.
Yeah, I know. And Yates has been brilliant. He started more than Dominguez.
So what's your point then? My
point is pick a couple of players who haven't
played in the last 2 games.
Who haven't been starting recently, who are starting. If you want to use Yates as an example because he started most of the season, you can do that. But pick someone else. Anyone else who, like a player who always starts. Murillo, Morgan Gibbs-White, Anderson. 3 players right there who always start. I said I'd start Anderson of all of them if I was going to risk one right now. Callum Hudson-Odoi, Elanga. Players who always start. Pick one. I'm asking one question and it's pick one. Shit.
And I'm saying no.
Right. Well, thanks, ladies and gentlemen. Why don't we finish on Forest Fantasy 5, the silly game that you invented?
Because I need to play catch up with all the data.
Yeah, still can't. The data of a game you created. I got the data collected, I gave it to you, and you've done nothing.
Yeah, but I have to sit and implement it and do all the mathematics, but yet manually because there's no
mathematics. I'd love to see you do that.
Yeah. Well, I'm better at maths than you are, mate.
I'm not going to throw mud at the wall and go back and forth. Right. FA Cup predictions this weekend. What's going to happen? We'll come back for Man City. And you maybe me, maybe you.
Well, I'm meeting Premier Elliott for the game.
Oh, nice! You're meeting him before the game.
And I promised him that he'd be on this pod next time I did it with you because you keep promising him. And I said, "Oh, I'll get you on with me." And it would be lovely to hear his thoughts. You've got a lot of facts that you can share with our listeners and us that go a lot further and farther.
I don't mind coordinating next week for a pre-City or something. I don't mind doing that. We can do that if you're available.
Post Ipswich. We'll see how we go. And I'm hoping for a penalty shootout. I'm not because we'll be there really late. But
okay, right. So no, but what are you predicting? Forget what you're hoping for. We know what you're hoping for.
I think we roll them over 3-0.
That's a big. Even with all the changes that we probably.
Nah, Delap's getting a goal, isn't he?
Oh Jesus! Say something. Predict something. Great. Matt thinks we'll win 3-1.
I think we're going to roll them over, and it'll be. I think that clean sheet last night was a springboard into a new up cycle. I want, and then we beat City 1-0, and we're
City 1-0. Wow. Okay, I think we scrape past Ipswich. scrape past them. Something like
Probably
all the
will.
home game. It's won all the home game. They're hitting the post and the bar, and then we score late and just crush their dreams and carry on to the quarterfinal. I'm not going to predict a loss, but I think we win 2-1. That's where I'm going. And I think Sangare gets a goal.
Yeah.
All right.
Yeah.
And
Feels like that kind of weekend, doesn't it? No, it's a Monday night game, isn't it?
Yeah. Yeah, it feels like that kind of Monday night game. Right.
Why do we keep getting like at the end of the draw with Exeter? We're right at the end of the weekend. With FA Cup this weekend, we're right at the end. Like,
yeah, I know, but look, it gives us more time to prepare because
but less time for the league. But yeah,
okay, fine. Well, anyway, you're going to that game. Me and you have been to a few of the games lately. That's been positive. Hopefully, we can get to some more in April, and hopefully, Forest can continue this pace. And I'm going to stay positive because we dashed Arsenal's title hopes, even though they're already gone. But we really extinguished them last night, which was kind of, my brother's an Arsenal fan. I kind of feel bad for him, but I kind of like sticking the knife in. So it's like it's defense city inside me. Feel bad, but feel good. Do you know what I mean? I think it was a really good result. If I'm honest, I think it was a really good result for us last night, and I think onwards and upwards, and we go.
Still in the you wanted to nick it at the end. You wanted.
Of course, I did. But the way I see it is,
not Nico. Was it me or was Nico Williams particularly good last night?
No, he to be honest, he was really good. And here's back end of the podcast stuff here, right? Before I just shout outs and say goodbye. Milenkovic got a yellow card within 3 minutes. He managed his entire game from centre back with wave upon wave upon wave of crosses, corners, set pieces, balls getting in behind, and he didn't put a foot wrong. And I just think brilliant to management. Calafiori got a yellow card in the first minute or two, and stop yawning. Calafiori got a yellow card in the first minute or two, and Arteta took him off at halftime because he was worried something was going to happen because Hudson-Odoi was getting the best of him. Milenkovic gets one in minute 3. I'm thinking he's definitely playing 90 minutes because he always does. Plays 90 minutes, manages like an absolute class beast that he is. So Milenkovic gets a shout out for me. And Dominguez had moments where he was being sort of turned inside out, but for the most part he made some big tackles, and he's been good. So look, that's it. And he was getting hammered.
You're going to go through the whole team then.
I was just going to say Dominguez was a bit of a divisive figure last night because some people thought he was poor, but I actually thought he struggled in a couple of moments, big moments, but for the most part that's such a fence-sitting kind of thing to say. For the most part he was fine. We all were pretty good defensively last night. Well done, the entire team. Can we roll off now, Matt?
Dominguez was just good at getting stuck in, but he just couldn't get the ball to another Forest player.
None of the Forest players really could do that. There was moments where it was difficult to do that. None of the Forest players could really do that last night because Arsenal played such a dominant possession game, which is what they like to play. Anyway, look, this is irrelevant. We're going to move on into a new space. Man City next week. Ipswich this weekend. I say we're going to win 2-1. You say we're going to win 3-1. You're going to be at the game. Do you have anything else you'd like to say before I get some shout-outs to some people?
Not really.
Great. Thanks for your input. Thanks for cutting me off. I know I cut you off, but you are infuriating when you cut me off. Maybe I'm less infuriating. I don't know. I can't really tell what the difference is anymore.
I don't think I'm cutting you off. I think that there's got to be an element of that's what conversation is, isn't it? It's people picking up on points. And then there's like a delay online. There's
a delay with the ending of this podcast. Okay?
The interrupting thing, though, is like I might have interrupted more today, but you interrupt people all the time, and just because you haven't as much today, it's
not just today, though. This is getting messy at the end of the podcast.
Thanks for listening, everyone.
Thanks for listening, everyone. Matt got a parking ticket. Forest are into the FA Cup 5th round, and hopefully it's the quarterfinals. We play Man City next week. The 0-0 draw last night was good, and I personally believe that we might just
do it.
Anyway,
Greg, got some good feedback from a client, so I'm very relieved.
You should be. Follow us, which is a surprise. Follow us at Forest all over on Instagram or NFFC all over on X. Alternatively, go to forestallover.com. There's not much on that website anymore. Big shout out to Greg and Laura. I met them at the Newcastle Arms before the Newcastle game last weekend. Matt Mitchell also walked me to the stadium. Absolute legend. He actually wrote on YouTube recently. He said, "That's mad. First time I watched, not listened. In my head, Matt didn't look like that." This is someone who I was walking with to the
Hang on. Say what?
So there's a guy who
Yeah.
who's a really lovely guy, listens to the podcast. His name is Matt
Yeah.
Mitchell. He's friends with Greg and Laura. And he walked me to the game because I had to let my mate Davis go to the home end while I went to the away end. And he very kindly walked to me and said, we're going this way, and kind of helped out. And he wrote on YouTube, he said, that's mad. It's the first time I've watched and not listened, because he usually listens. And he says, in my head, Matt didn't look like that. He's obviously met me the other day, so he now knows what I look like. But in his head, he probably had a different, he probably thought you were some sort of radio DJ, kind of entrepreneurial radio.
Well, people that
late night.
one or two people that have met us at games and said they double check. They don't. I love it because I deliberately normally wear disguises, so because I don't want. I mean, I'm not suggesting we'd get recognised, but for the odd person that you try and get us to be recognised by, I
don't try and get us to be recognised by anyone.
People are always so surprised about how short I am, basically. And then someone said they thought I worked in finance.
And with that, we'll exit the frame, because Matt does not work in finance. Matt, look, Matt, do you know what I remember?
Team Forest Focus once, and Emily said, "Oh, I thought you were a big important businessman."
No one ever said that to you, Emily. If you're listening, please tell me if that actually happened. No one said you're a big important finance person. People might have called you short because you are, and that's fine. But
oh my god,
ultimately, I've got no hair. But ultimately, Matt, it doesn't matter. We just need to get out of here. Bye.
Bye bye. We're the only ones left.